It is an extremely busy month for me. I cannot begin to share with you just how much I lack in time. Having time to be able to manage everything I can properly. And I know a lot of you can make the argument that it's all about time management. And you're right, it really is. I'm trying really hard to drive it all, to be able to conduct it efficiently and properly, you know, because I don't want to half-ass anything, but it's also energy consuming. We just moved into a new place. We got Christmas coming up, we got the baby coming up, we got a baby shower coming up real soon. I'm pretty sure that's going to be the next big expenditure and next time consumption activity. But since we're talking about time management, something pretty interesting occurred to me, and it all kind of spun off from my wife. And this is quite some time ago. She introduced me to a movie with Justin Timberlake. It's called In Time, and it was such an interesting concept. It was so bizarre how almost literally it nailed what today we're going through. Now they obviously set it up to where it's more of an action film than anything, but it's almost mockingly telling the world how much the man is in control of our time, almost as much as it's in control of almost as much, if not just as much as it's in control of our money, our income, our finances, and how much it's basically, you know, it's up to us to have the nerve, to have the balls to you know, try to outplay the man in the game of life in order to preserve such valued treasures and such valuable elements such as time. A phrase that kind of occurs to me is that time itself is almost a literal slave, because it's okay if you put it in the word slave in a literal meaning, how they used to deal with slaves, where they were used to the advantage of their master. They were bought off, they were sold off, they were traded, they were all these parallels can be made to what we do with our time now. It's pretty interesting how literally we can make the parallel of time and slaves. A lot of people really do use, and a lot of people abuse, and a lot of people misuse, and a lot of people waste time. It's pretty evident that people that don't use time efficiently or wisely are people that are unsuccessful. And I know I talk a lot about success and what it means to me and what it means to people and what it should mean and all this bunch of stuff, but it's all relevant. I'm going to go a little out of order here, but just bear with me because there's something I really wanted to touch on right now as far as, you know, the actual element that is time. Because time, really, all the time that we have is really just from the minute we are born to the minute we die is all the time we have. When you say you have all the time in the world, it's bullshit. You don't. And you realize that the most when you're trying to pursue something and you're running out of time or you're planning it out and you realize you won't have enough time to spare in order to get everything done that you want to get done. And so it's really all about managing the time or saving time, and we're gonna get to that in a sec. It really is a crucial element. All the successful business people, and I'm, you know, I can't emphasize enough how, you know, the big quotation marks I'm making with my fingers, you know, making some little bunny ears here. Successful business people really do recognize time as a crucial element. If you don't believe me, watch an episode of The Dragon's Den. I have no idea what seasons it gets mentioned in. I have no idea what episodes it get mentioned in. I like watching it because they often acknowledge and recognize and advise to the entrepreneurs that time is an element of success. Time is a crucial element towards reaching goals. One really harsh quote that I've heard, but I definitely agree with in certain cases, is the greatest asset, the greatest factor in life is time. So if you're wasting mine, get the fuck out. Now that's a little harsh and quite frankly kind of vulgar to the displease of a lot of people, and for that I apologize. However, it is very true, and for that I cannot apologize. I in no way, shape, or form take it back. It's the absolute truth. If you're not taking time seriously, you know, as far as your management, as far as what you do with it, as far as how you conduct yourself within the short time frame you have, then you're not being very wise. You can have all your other little ducks in a row, but if you don't have the little ducky with the, you know, with the ticking time bomb on it, with the little pocket watch, you know, chained around his neck, if that one is, you know, stepping a little out of line from all the other ones, then you're pretty fucked. Your line's is gonna be all out of whack. If your time is off, your direction is off. If your time is off, your placement is off. I'm gonna relate this to the same two things I relate everything else to, you know, martial arts and music. You can have the greatest ear for notes and frequency and vibrational recognition, and it's a really fancy word of saying you can have the greatest ear for tonality, but if your timing is off, if your interior clock or your interior metronome isn't up to par, then you can play the right notes, but it'll be offbeat and it's just not gonna sound good. In the same application to martial arts, you can have the greatest combination, you can have the greatest technique, you can have the most beautiful form in the world, but if you don't know how to apply it with the right timing, you know, you're never gonna land a single blow because it's all gonna be off. It's all gonna be on the wrong spot. It's just not gonna flow. It's just not gonna, you're just not gonna bring it to completion because your timing is off. So if you want to be whatever your business is, whatever your pursuits are, you have to take that element into consideration every single step of the way, because the smartest businessman recognizes, I'm gonna say it again, time as a crucial element. That's basically where you need to have your head at, you know. And I'm gonna get a little mathematical here. You can have your Y factor as strong as it can be, but if your X factor, which is usually time, if you look at a grid, your X and Y axis, X on a on any sort of scale is usually time. Now I know what you're thinking. It's probably no old news that nothing great comes quickly, and you know, much like one of my previous topics about little increments equaling something grand, or the greatest things in life equaling a lot of smaller accomplishments. I feel like great things cost a lot of time, in that, you know, if you're perceiving time as a value, you know, nothing that is going to be great and substantial is going to come quick and easy. Nothing is going to require a short amount of time. Now, an argument can be made that, you know, a big, huge trademark is comprised of a bunch of smaller, condensed moments of time. And that's true. That's very, very true. I'm all about that. I can confirm that. I second that notion. I've lived it. I know what that means. I would imagine a lot of people do too. And I think that's the secret to these business per se people. They've discovered that the key is use time in small increments. Now, there's a lot I think that goes into that. I think, you know, if you look at it in the fitness level, a bodybuilder doesn't eat a big, huge, solid, you know, oversized meal once in the day and all of a sudden he's got his fill. You know, he doesn't have a freaking tub of meat and protein. He doesn't have a tub of rice and freaking a whole turkey, 10 pounds of veggies and you know, 10 cups of fucking protein shake. No, he breaks it down. He has 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 meals. Whatever whatever amount of meals that he takes throughout the course of the day, from the minute he wakes up till the minute he goes to sleep, and you know, progressively adds on those calories that he needs to sustain the size and the growth needed to achieve whatever level of fitness he wants to achieve. That's a key part of it. We're thinking of time, again, thinking of it as a value, as, you know, in a way, an element of currency. You never really think about currency and your expenditure until you're poor and you're trying to get beyond the starting line. And so what do? Every single little cent that you have, every single, you know, whatever loose change you can scratch out of the cushions of your couch, you milk it. You absolutely milk it. And same thing with time. If you're trying to invest time, if you're trying to dedicate time and devotion into something, you have to A, use your time wisely, B, milk it. Milk every single second of it. You make the best out of every single moment. And here's the thing. This is kind of have to step into this next part, but I'll touch briefly on it now. In order for it to work for you, you have to be willing to work uncomfortably at uncomfortable times to move ahead. And you have to. There is no way around it. For going back to the fitness thing, you have to get up early to go do cardio on an empty stomach, because only like that are you going to be able to burn the excessive calories that are already stored in your body if you're trying to slim down. You have to be willing to go to sleep late to put in those extra meals if you're trying to put on size. You have to be able to go the extra distance, take extra time out of your day, even if it's just 10 or 15 minutes to pound down a shake or slap down a quick bowl of rice and fish, yada yada yada. The list goes on, you know, and you can apply that to whatever the art form is or whatever the fitness activity is. Any, you know, business or art guru that you meet will tell you that exact thing. You know, if you want to dedicate more time into it, you have to get up earlier to just to give yourself more time to devote onto your projects, because any other time is already, because I'm sure every other point in a regular day is already consumed by something else, whether it's commitments, whether it's obligations, whether it's, you know, the list goes on and on and on. And that's fine, I get that. But if you want to move along in your craft and whatever your ambition is, you have to be willing to work uncomfortable hours, or be willing to take away from leisure things like extra sleep to move ahead. You have to be willing to, if you're trying to trim down, you have to be willing to skip desserts most nights in order to, you got to stop spoiling yourself basically, because that's valuable time that you could be using to further yourself in something that's beneficial in a more grand picture of your life. And that's the only way it's going to work. It's not that's something that might work. It's a given fact. It's an undisputed factor. All the smartest businessmen that, have reached something at some point will tell you that is the secret. And then the other portion to it, which I'm probably gonna have to rip into it, is the fact that buying time is all we do. I'm gonna go back to referencing the movie, because to them, time is currency. And honestly, it's so literal almost. All we ever do is buy time. We don't save time. We maybe borrow time, but end up paying it back in interest. We're buying time. And you know what? The problem is, the man outsmarts us into giving up all our time to him. The man has literally found a way to trick us into spending all our time and devoting it to him, to making the rich richer, to making the dirty and the political able to stay on the top of the food chain where they are. Do they belong there? No, fuck them. But they're smart. They were and they are able to trick us into giving them all our time. And that's how they stay successful. That's the secret. And I'm going to chew heavily into those two things, into the man outsmarting us, into giving up our time. And the other one is that we buy time. We're literally spending money out of our pocket to buy time. In my understanding of this, it's basically, this is how we're getting robbed. This is how we're getting cheated. This is how, we are getting scammed into falling victims of the current, if you will, falling into the ruts. People have almost always considered it a necessity, have always considered it a normal part of life. And I shouldn't say it's unnecessary, because nowadays, in order to keep up with the speed of things, you need to have a certain level of, I wouldn't say a certain level of wealth, but there's certain personal items that are a necessity, such as, transportation, such as a structure to live in. That's all good and well, but as opposed to just falling into the current, why not surpass it? Why not, instead of living comfortably, strive to sacrifice the comfort for living outside of the current? Get the important stuff, get the everyday necessities, get the obligational toys, the obligational toys per se, to fulfill your obligations, to be able to care for your family, great. But why not get past that? We fall so much into the prison of giving up our time and our values that we forget about our dreams. That we fall, victims to draining our energy, into just giving up our time and falling into the trend. Now, what I mean by that is basically the man outsmarts us into giving up all of our time. How? With the basic needs. With the basic needs. That itself, I refer to as bait. All those pre-earned riches, if you will, having a decent working car, having a comfortable house, or having a comfortable environment, having decent clothes that you're not going to get, plastered for, having luxuries, are pre-earned riches, basically. Those are things that you wouldn't have had, but, we have those, not just conveniences, but those luxuries at our fingertips, and we have them without having to earn them. And that's basically the bait that the man uses to fucking suck us into their thing. See, because once you get a car, all of a sudden you have to get the insurance to it. You have to have the monthly fucking loan payments. You have to have this, you know, you have to have the maintenance on it. You have to have, you know, the list goes on, and you never stop paying for it. And granted, all good things are costly, but that's how all the financial companies get you. That's how the dealerships get you. That's how the fucking the insurance companies get you. That's how, you know, that's how they keep their pockets full, because you have to invest in that now. And not only are you investing the money that you've earned through your hard sweat and tears, but now you're investing your time. Now, those 8 hours out of your, literally a third of your day is going into your job so you can get your money. And you're getting your money so you can give it to the man just so you can keep your stuff. And that's how they suck you in. They're literally robbing you of your money. They're robbing you of your energy. And most importantly, they're robbing you of your fucking time. Now, an argument can be made that we need to work to survive. Even if we weren't earning some sort of finance, we would have to be working and hunting for our food. We would have to, you know, break our backs to build our own houses. Perfect. I get that concept. But you think they don't milk the fact that we need these things nowadays? You think that they don't fucking charge us up the ass to fucking, just so we can get away with paying our insurance and all this bullshit thing that they come up with just so they can keep themselves rich? Like, it's incredible the amount of things that they tag on to our bare necessities just so that they can fucking stay on top of us, just so that they can keep us in their loop. And it's not even so much that they're draining us of our money and our energy. It's the time that they're taking away from us. It's the time that we could be using and spending it on working towards our goals. There's no other way around it. As I said before, we have to work uncomfortably. You know, we have to come up with a certain number of hours outside of our daily routine, outside of our normal working hours, to be able to chase what's further ahead, what we can be doing ahead. Is it going to be brutal? Is it going to be consuming? Is it going to be draining? Fuck yes, but it's also going to be rewarding, because at the same time, you're using time that you're not giving away to some asshole in a fucking tie and a suit, to some corporate fucking group of people sitting around on a desk figuring out ways how to drain you more of it. And that's, you know, that's really the only way to beat them. That's how they enslave you. That's how they enslave your time. That's why I said in the beginning, time is literally a slave. Because we're selling it to them. Whatever little time we have to buy it. And that's why I referred to that movie, In Time. Because we're almost literally, okay, put it like this. Here's another concept for you. We can very easily take the bus every day. Depending on what city you are, you're easily paying anywhere from $2.50 to $7 on your trip to work. Depending where you live, it's literally that expensive. From there to work and then back. So you're literally spending somewhere between $5 to $15 on your transportation to and from work, being on public transit. And you know what? That's good and well. If that's all you can afford, all the power to you. There's people who get on those things day in and day out, and you know, they're making it work. All the power to you. You have my utmost respect and utmost admiration. I have nothing bad to say you. If anything, you receive my absolute compliment and praise right now. You are fucking kicking ass, and I don't know how much more I'm gonna drag out this compliment, but yeah, fucking rock on. I know my mother-in-law specifically spends well over 2 hours, anywhere from 2.5 hours to 3 hours on transit to work, and then another however many more on her way back home every single day to go to work. And you know, my hat's off to people like that. I mean, what am I trying to say with that? Now, eventually, say you get tired of it. Eventually, you say to yourself, eventually you work up your credit and you save up your money and you go to get your car, because eventually you say to yourself, you know what? it's not worth it sitting 2 hours in a fucking bus or in the train or whatever. And so you go and buy yourself a car, which, you know, a semi-decent one. My first car, when I finally got one back after years of fucking being on the transit because of my bad credit and past transgressions, that, you know, it basically took a long time before I can, you know, resolve all that stuff and, you know, start doing life again responsibly. So once I got that back, you know, I got myself a pretty half decent car, and I still do. I still have a, you know, I don't have a, you know, fancy vehicles or nothing like that. So my point is, you get a half decent car, you know, something that's not going to leave you stranded on the road for, you know, out of a day or whatever. And even if you get like some piece of shit for like a couple, you know, a couple hundred or $1,000 or so, get yourself a decent, a little car that is getting you from point A to point B, and that's all you need it for. All of a sudden, if you're gonna make car payments, you're basically going somewhere between $120 to $200 bi-weekly. So that's anywhere from $300 to $400 a month. And in most places, especially if you're just starting out, you're gonna probably be paying anywhere from $250 to $400 a month. Now, worst case scenario, you're paying $400 for the car, $400 for the insurance. That's $800 a month, plus whatever the expenses are of your living. But I'm not gonna get into that. So $800 to have a car. Whereas before, you were probably paying $200, just under $200 for the transit. Now you're paying $800 just so you can move around comfortably. And take into consideration, the majority of the time you're sitting in traffic in the morning and then again in the afternoon. You're paying an extra $600 just so you can probably scratch only an hour off your travel time minimum. So you're chopping your travel time in half and you're paying $600 for it. So you realize you're not even paying for a motor. You're not even paying for 4 wheels. You're not even paying for some windows that can keep you warm. And, you know, you're literally paying to get there faster. So you don't always have to be late. You know, you can be comfortable. You're literally just paid ballparking $600 more a month. I'm not even gonna begin to try and add up what that's gonna be fucking a couple years from now, because it's brutal. But you basically just bought yourself an hour of your life, you know, that you don't have to spend on transit. You literally just bought time. How much more of a literal example do you want? You don't think about it when you're driving from home. You know, step out of your house and you hop into your nice little warm car, especially those of you who are able to, you know, afford a remote control starter, and then you're paying for gas. What the fuck is that shit? Okay, I get it. It's a piece of machine and you need to feed it like anything else in order for it to go. Granted, you're spending another fucking minimum, another $100 a month, or those of you with eco cars will fucking spend somewhere about in the ballpark of, yeah, about $100 a month if you're lucky, if you're not traveling around a lot. But buddy, come on, man, we're literally buying time off the man. They're taking the time that we were born with, stealing it from us and selling it back to us. What better word than a thief and a mugger and a scammer? What the fuck is that? And I can't even complain about it because I'm buying into it too. I have to. My obligations don't allow for me to spend my time on the public transit. I'm not bashing it. Again, I can't compliment people anymore, you know, on the that do that, because I did that for a longest time. I know how brutal it is. If there's people who are never going to be able to stop doing it for their own personal reasons, great, I salute you. But I personally, and the majority of the people, cannot afford that hour or so more on the fucking transit. So you go in debt yourself, you know, you go and you basically lock yourself into this fucking vicious circle of giving the man money just so you can have an hour of your life back every day. What the fuck is this shit? No, come on, man. Again, the only way to run around that fire pit and kind of fight it a little bit, to find those hours and, you know, muster up whatever extra hours that we have, you know, that we have to sacrifice other things for, like sleep or energy or what have you. You know, that's why it's so relevant. The whole concept of us buying time and not saving it, that's what it boils down to. And that's literally how the man outsmarts us into giving it all to him. That's literally what it is. Because all the people that are getting rich and staying rich, that's how they do it. They see time as currency and as value until they take it. That's the thing that they're working for sometimes. And that's kind of the concept that you have to keep in mind. How else are we going to do it? Why else would we invest so much into valuable toys, certain luxuries like having transportation or having a place to live, having money to eat decently, you know? And that itself is a whole other discussion, you know? Can't cheap out either. We can't cheap out on the things we eat, you know? If eating real meat costs, you know, double than what it does to eat garbage like fast food and all that shit, you know, that's a whole different discussion in and of itself, and I'm all for that. It's all about the time, man. It's not about the money. I'm not even gonna begin to get into that. It's about the time, man. It's about preserving the real value. I guess just dwelling on the concept, I kind of wanted to bring something up real quick just to kind of close everything together, and it doesn't necessarily flow smoothly with everything we've been talking about. I mean, it does kind of touch on what I was mentioning earlier, and it's a little strayed from the overall point, but it's definitely going to put a little bit of emphasis for those of you who keep up with MMA and UFC and all that good stuff, which I'm absolutely a fanboy of all this stuff, mainly because I'm just such an absolute martial arts disciple. My man, Conor McGregor, good old McGregs, I would argue to say that today he's definitely one of the best fighters. Not just in the sense that he can't be beat, because he can, he obviously can. Nate Diaz showcased that very, very well. Hats off to Nate Diaz, by the way. To be an athlete, you know, to be a recognized name, you can't just be well versed in the sport itself, but you also have to be intelligent as far as the business, as far as the politics, as far as, you know, what the reputational side is. Now, this isn't about reputation by any means. That's totally a different topic for a different day. But I'm just putting emphasis on why I think he's one of the best out there. And it's basically because he falls into the category of athletes that, you know, one thing is to be recognized for having talent, but another, it's a totally different league when you're a player that, when the officials have changed the rules of the game to accommodate for you, because all of a sudden a human being that the current concept of boundaries, it doesn't apply to them anymore. The boundaries don't seem as prevalent to limit them. Therefore, the rules of the game have to be expanded upon or have to be modified in order to, you know, to keep it fair for everybody. When you're pushing those kind of boundaries, when the psychological barricades are being pushed further in order to be able to make the game work for you, then you know you are one of the best. And there's a few select number of athletes as far as, you know, falling into that category, you know, and McGregor is definitely one of them. That being said, when one of the best is making quotes about timing, that's when you know, that's when you realize how important the concept is. Now, one of the most triumphant, one of the most trademarking victories, one of the most jaw-dropping moments of McGregor's career was not that long ago when he dropped Jose Aldo in 13 seconds. 13 seconds. Like, how much more iconic, how much more of a notch, how much more of a dent on that timeline can you not put than putting to sleep one of the absolute greatest, most physically gifted athletes? When you put someone out cold like that in that kind of a time span, you have to recognize it doesn't matter who you are, it doesn't matter if you're a fan or not. And you know what he said at the post-fight interview is basically what summed it all up. Now, I should say he definitely recognized Jose Aldo as being a powerful individual. He definitely recognized him as being the quicker individual as far as, you know, abilities go. I'm actually going to read the quote to you right now. He says, "He's definitely powerful and he's fast, but precision beats power and timing beats speed." And I quote, this was Conor McGregor just after the fight there. I'm going to absolutely back up this quote. I'm totally going to support it. I will stand by this any given day. Because you can see at the knockout, McGregor definitely didn't throw a jab that was supposed to be more impactful than the one Jose Aldo threw not even a split second later. You know, when even in slow motion, you break it down, McGregor gets hit in the face just like milliseconds after McGregor hit the knockout blow. And what was it about that shot? I'm pretty sure he had seen Aldo's hit coming, but he timed it such that he can get his in just those few little, you know, fraction of a second earlier. And the way he timed it, the way the placement plus the timing was everything. And so he summed it up with that quote, and it was spot on. That was literally the entire explanation for what he had done. You can be talented, you can be physically or skillfully ahead of everybody, but if you don't have precision, A, and B, definitely more so than precision, you have to have the timing. And I told you earlier how much the timing has to do with everything. You know, more so than the power, more so than the speed, than the fucking placement is definitely right up there with it, but just slightly ahead of it is the timing. I admire so much the people that can break down their movement such to where it almost seems they can mentally like slow your movement down in their mind and almost stalk you down like a mountain lion freaking stalking down a fucking elk and just watching your movements until it jumps in. Like, oh man, how much more of a prime example do you want than that? Like, it's all about the timing.